All right, guys, here we go. So tonight, what I'm going to do today is I've made a couple of slides for you here. Michelle, is my screen on for, okay. So the layout of the night's call is if you do have any questions, send your chat to Michelle Sanders directly on here to where she can get the questions and we can answer them at the end, because I do want to answer anything that you have around your business, direct to the point. I love questions that are very direct. So if anything comes to you throughout this, ask her and we'll go back and recap those at the end. Going forward, the layout of the day is I want to go through and recap. This is the fourth of four, obviously, series we've gone through, and we've built up to some of these. And at the very end of these, at the very end of this class, basically, I'm going to tell you the things that I think have to go into all businesses, no matter what you do, to have success in any business that you deal with. And I've always lived by these. So recapping, just kind of some back, if anybody wasn't in the first three, I'm going to go through these quickly. And the first one is just remember the first week we did this, we talked about a reality check. A reality check is just simply understanding that you got to realize if you want to make over $100,000 a year in America, which is the greatest wealth country in the world, you're in the top 1% of what you're trying to go for. And don't you think that's going to be hard, right? Like not everything's going to be awesome. And that's just the reality check of understanding you're trying to be in the top 1% of the top 1% country, and it's not going to be awesome. So that was the first thing we talked about. The second thing we talked about was your mindset about keeping positive and don't try to motivate, but in other words, be a motivator, right? Like Kim Cloud and I were doing an interview this last week, and she said, how do you get up every day and just do it? And I think that's the hardest part for all of us is how do we get up every day and just do it? Is more of us doing it is bigger than just trying to go like rah and cheer people on. You have to be a motivator through what you do, not what you say, right? The third thing that I talked about was daily routine is being effective. And I think that this is one of the biggest things that I'm telling you all right now that you struggle with is you're not effective in your day. You get bogged down with very simple things because you let the little things get to you throughout the day, and you look up and it's 5 o'clock and, oh my God, I got to get to dinner, and your whole day's blown. And the things that I talked about around that is there is something very real, guys. Listen, and God love him if he's on this call tonight or he hears this ever. I went to my old business and did some consulting yesterday. And there's something to be said, guys, about a 6-minute meeting. Like a 6-minute meeting can be done in life. Everything doesn't have to be an hour. If you have an hour-long meeting, you can only do 5 of those in a workday, right? I want to get 25 meetings done so they can be 7 minutes, they can be to the point, and you can get things done. The second thing I talked about was around touching things once. What I mean by that is around text messages, emails, and phone calls. If you will really hone in on touching those things one time and not 50, you'll be amazed at what you can do throughout the day, okay? And time management, just as simple. Understanding your time management, I would tell you the number one thing that I see from employees is lack of time management, and most business owners lack it the biggest. They just get lost in their day and it's gone, and you really have to tackle what time management is. Then we jump to the second week was around marketing and sales. The biggest things I can tell you guys, if you're not getting sales and you're not growing your business from a sales side, mostly it's you're not getting attention, you're not attracting people through attention, and you're not taking the value of what you currently already have and growing it in the current customer base that you have right in front of you. You just go on to the next kill instead of realizing what you already have in front of you. All right. And that kind of took us for the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then now this jumps to the things that I want to talk about this week. I'm going to talk about 4 critical things. Well, I'm going to talk about a couple things. I'm going to give you 3 bullet points. Then I'm going to talk about 3 things the pillars of the business, and then 4 questions to ask yourself. Okay. But these are just leading into it. I want you to understand that something around what I want you to get out of this tonight is when you get off of here, you ask yourself about your business. Do I do this? Do I do that? What does this mean to me? So the first thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is your employees and customers. Do you understand the seasons of your employees and your customers? Like really, do you really understand them? And what that means is what products do you offer? And when you offer the products, have you actually asked your customers lately, like, do they like the services that you offer? or do they want more, or do they think you suck at something? Have you asked them? Do you ask for that feedback, right? And then and when you get to your employees, do you really understand your employees, your vendors, or employees could be a lot of things to a lot of people on this call, but do you really understand their needs? So you have to really find out, and that starts with, a lot of us as business owners think that we know what our customers want, and we don't have the right data of what we think, okay? So that's just a simple thing. This is a big one. Positive distraction. The reason I put this in here is I think it's this is something that we don't think about a lot, is if you do understand your business and you understand your customers and your employees, you have to understand how to do positive distraction. And what that means is there's a time of the game of distracting leaders. For example, I'm gonna give y'all an example. If I'm in the tax business, if I do tax returns, I don't really need to have any tax return incentives to my employees during the months of February to May. Fair? You've got to have things that keep them distracted in the off-season months, and understanding your seasons, whether it's your customer. So I know Kim Cloud's on here tonight, and she tells me all the time, right now you can walk into her salon and you can feel it. It's exciting. Everybody's happy. It's going crazy. There's money. There's the receipts are flying off the shelf. You don't have to build up your salespeople in times of good season, but in times of bad seasons that you define, you have to understand that's when you do sales contests, incentives, trips, things to keep them engaged. That doesn't only work with just employees, it also works with customers. So one of the things I wrote on here is an example is sports. All of us know in summertime, what do you do with kids? Why do kids go into sports? Why do parents put kids into sports? Because they feel that they put them into sports and it keeps them distracted and a positive distraction without them getting lost with other things. When they're in school, they have less likelihood of those things happening. So you have to be in tune with that with your customers and your employees to truly understand the season of distracting your employees or customers, if that makes sense, okay? So that was the boring stuff. And then this is what I like. This is what really gets me jived up, is building leaders. Everything we're going to talk about here is about to be people. And hands down, I can tell you, number one thing that most of you don't do right here on this call, I don't care what business you do, is you don't spend enough time building leaders. You have to pour all of the time in the world into people, and those people turn into leaders. What we do as business owners is if we go in and we're like pounding our chest, and this isn't right and that's not right, and we don't ever look at why it's not right, because if you will go in tomorrow and change the lenses of your eyes that maybe it's not right because you're not a good freaking leader, things will change. Like, why does that person not know? Why does that person not understand what you think? Why is it not happening? It's because you're not inspiring, or you haven't been clear to them. So I wrote down there, clear direction is one of the first things that I was taught in business. You have to be very clear, like crayon clear, like expo board clear. Like, if you don't understand it, I'm going to draw it out for you. So as a business owner, as a direct salesperson, as a traditional business person, if you walk in tomorrow and you feel something, I remember in the business of the restaurant business for me, I remember this guy told me once, he said, listen, Brian, if that busser does not bust that table right now, you stop everything you're doing and you teach that guy right now how to bust that table. And you'll do it once and you'll never do it again. And I always remember that, because that's clear direction. It's not the management style of being like, that damn guy doesn't know how to do his job and walks off. You got to teach him and be very clear. So your job, I put this here at the bottom, your job is to build people that build a business. That's a rich mindset. Your job is to build the people that build the business, right? A lot of us do what? I know there's a lot of self-employed people in here right now. A lot of us go in and you build a business by yourself to think the business is going to keep growing. The business does not keep growing because your hands get old, your brain gets old, and your legs get tired, guys. You have to build people that build your business. That is hands down one of the biggest challenges you're going to have getting off this call when you go in tomorrow into your business and you face the world and you look an employee in the eyes and you say, have I taught this person? Have I been very clear? Or am I lacking not giving that time that person needs, right? So where does that lead us to? These are the three things that I love to talk about. I would tell you, if you take anything away from tonight's call, you're going to hear me say these three things over and over and over and over again. BG's core values of running any business are people, processes, and products. What I mean by that is simple. People, you got to have a freaking great team. One of the first things I remember doing in a business when I started my business, I can still remember asking my guy, how much do you need to make an hour? And I thought I was going to go dead ass broke by paying that guy. I don't know if it was $7 or $27, but I knew I felt broke the minute I had to pay a guy to do work for me, right? But that was the best decision I ever did, is hire somebody. The second thing I did is I hired a good person. And then the third thing I did is I put a lot of time and energy into them to where they got very good at what they did. And the second thing I did right is I hired another one and another one and another one and another one. And as long as you pour into people, a great team will drastically change your life in any business that you want to do in life. And when I want to expand on that, a great team is not only employees, CPAs, accountants, people that do your taxes, people that do your bookwork, people that buy for you, people that are your vendors. Those are all part of your team. Anybody that gets a check from you, or you give a check to, or they give a check to you around business, that's your team. It's a very vital part of your team, and you got to have a great team. The second thing you got to have is a process. If you don't have a process, you are not going to be able to expand. Period. Travis, I know you're on here tonight. We'll go with service business. And what I would tell you is, when you expand, you can't go from doing things once or twice or three times without being able to duplicate it through a process, which all has to be on paper and not in your head. The biggest learning lesson I had when I sold my business is, I can tell you a lot of my business was in my head. Every inch of it was in my head, and it has to be in a process. The process is what allows McDonald's to build tomorrow and the next day through a process. It's not about a guy training it. It's not about who the cook is. It's about the process and the systems that they expand with. You have to be able to have processes that expand and they're duplicatable. No matter how big you have or how big you get, they just keep expanding through processes, okay? And the third is a product. You got to have a good product. I think most of us on this call would probably say, I got a good product, I got a pretty good team, and I got terrible processes. I think that's 97% of everybody on this call. Because you can have good product, but without good people, and even with good people, they can't expand it. You can't duplicate, because you got to have a process. So the thing I would tell you when you go into your business tomorrow is, of these three things, like, I would star which one's the best. Like, is your product amazing? And just check that off the list and go work on the other one. But if you will work on processes, I'm talking as simple as, like, how does the door open in the morning? Like, I know business owners, how it looks. Your alarm goes off. You run up there. You got to turn off the alarm. You got to open the door. You got to open the back door. You got to make sure the emergency thing's off. You got to call that guy. You got to make sure the voice machine's on. Check the recording from last night. Check the emails. Oh, we're ready for business. Oh, somebody just called in, cover the shift. That's not a process, guys. That's like not a process at all. That's called busy work. You got to have a process for every time something happens. What happens when one person calls in? Is it in paper? So when Sally doesn't come in tomorrow for a shift, does the receptionist know what to do because Sally's not there? Is there a checklist? Sally's people get contacted. Sally's email gets done. Is there a format and a system that goes through? If it's not, that's disorganized and it's not scalable, because Sally's the only person that knows how to cover it, okay? So those are the three things: people, processes, and products. No company will be successful without those three things, period. Now, the thing that I want to talk to most of you tonight about are these four things. The four things to success, if you have those three values, are these four things. Number one, do you have the right story? Meaning, what is your story that you tell today about whatever you're passionate about? Right? Think about it. Like, what is your story? Steve, I know, is on here. We got a granite countertops. What's the story though? What's the story between what's different about your granite and someone else's granite? What's the sales pitch? What's the story, right? It doesn't matter who's on here. What is the difference in the story? The second thing you're thinking is, do you have the right data? Which I think a lot of us do. So if I start at step one, I'm like, I got the right story. I'm good at what I do. The second one is, do you have the right data? You're like, yeah, I know all my customers. Do you really? Do you know that if you're a painter, did you know that white's in and not black? Or did you know that gray, just because you've been doing it for 25 years doesn't mean that it's in, right? Kim, for you, salon, is this shampoo in this week and out next week? And do you say this? Are you the salon that just keeps the stuff from 3 years ago, or do you have the right data? How do you find that data? Who tells you the data? Do you listen to yourself? Do you listen to employees? Do you actually have somebody that's a professional that tells you what's selling? So what is the data that you use around your current customer base that you're selling to? So do you have the right story for you? Do you have the right data that lines up with that story? And the third thing is the right strategy. What is the strategy to then sell or get into that cut? If you've got the right data and you've got the right story, how do you get in to that customer base with the right strategy? Is it social media? Is it newspaper? Is it yellow pages? Is it word of mouth? Is it a referral fee? What is most impactful for you is going to be determined by the right strategy. So a lot of us will have a great story and a great data, and we have terrible strategy, right? It's almost like saying, I used this the other night. It's like being a great army and going to war. You're the American army and we're going to war with somebody, and we have all of the greatest helicopters and fighter jets and people, and our men all 560 pounds, solid muscle, and we go the wrong way and they all drown. That's bad strategy. Strategy is very important when you go into war, into battle in your business. And then the fourth, when you go back this all goes back to people. Do you have the right team? I'll tell you right now, one of the hardest things you need to do in your business is fire the wrong person in the business. Get rid of them. They'll kill your business. They'll kill your reputation. And if you know it, they're there. If you feel it, they're there. You got to get rid of it. Start with the right team. So ask yourself those four things. Do you have those four things, and they all tie together? Okay. So here's the action steps that I'm going to leave you guys with as you go into your business day tomorrow. What is your product? Like, what is your defined product? Like, is it Kool-Aid? Is it lemonade? Is it hair? Is it granite? Is it tree? Whatever it is, like, define what is your product. Then who is your team? And is it the right team? Do you have a process around all the things that you do, right? And then ask those four things about, do you have the right story with the right data, with the right strategies, with the right team? So I know there's a lot of direct sales people on here. I think on, probably half. I would tell you, and all this it's all business, guys. Everything is business. If you're trying to sell something to someone, it's called business. If you're trying to put money in your bank, it's called business. And when you think about these steps, ask yourself, what is your story? Like, when you open your mouth, what is your story about your business for yourself, or your big business about your company? And then do you have the right data when you start talking about where you're going? Because so many of us, right, we just start spewing whatever we want to talk about, and we just lost all the data. It's the right data with the right strategies with the right team. Okay. So I hope that those are the things that I wanted to go through tonight and talk about. I know it's very short, simple, and to the point, but that's it. That's like the success things that you need. And I'm going to back up and go back to this, because I think that these three things are so important, guys. People, process, and the product. I can tell you nobody on this call is great at all three of those. Most companies that are billions of dollars, especially over 500 million, guess what's most important to all of those companies over 500 million? It's process. Process is hands down the number one thing. So let's walk through what that means for direct salespeople. Do you have a good process from the first time you talk to someone, the first time you give them product, to the first time that you follow up with them? Did you ever follow up with them? Did you ever ask them if they needed anything? And then what is that system? Like, where did you put their name? Is it on a Big Chief tablet? Is it in your iPhone? Is it in a CRM system? What is it in that's allowing you to have something that allows you to have a system to follow up on it to be successful? Or are most of us guilty of, I gave it and I had an effort and I didn't see anything from it, because you, quite honestly, you didn't have a system and a process to follow back up on it, right? So what is your process in your business today for every single step of your business? I'm telling you, There's millions and billions of dollars made in processes, and that's one of the biggest things you guys have to do. The second one is your people, whether it's a management team, a sales team, foreman, laborers, management, upper management, doesn't matter what it is, spend time with your people. If you're a small service business company, the guy at the very bottom is just as important as the guy at the very top when it goes to how he loads the truck, how he unloads the trash, where he puts the trash, how he does the oil, whatever it means. Those people are so important that you have to spend time with them because they have to feel that, number one, is they're part of a team, and they feel the value of you giving that time. And it goes a long ways into your business when you actually put that time into people. So those three things are the things I want you to think about tonight, guys. I'm going to cut for a second. Michelle, do you have anything on questions, or I can take a breather?
Yeah, take a breather. I have a couple questions. I haven't gotten any in, so y'all send me your questions, and it can be over anything. Oh, I'm getting them now. My question is, well, it's mainly a comment, and I really I don't remember. We do so many of these that I forget if I've said it on this or not. Is for processes, write your process down, even if it's just you that does it. Like when we worked in our service industry, in the service industry before, I was the one that answered all the emails and everything, and he made me go through and write what I did, like type it up, and we had a binder that step 1, step 2, step 3. That way, because Michelle wasn't going to be there forever. Brian's not going to be there forever. You want your business to outlast you, obviously. So
your processes will always outlive you guys. And in your business, whatever you build in your business, if you have a system and it's all in a book, that's what's for sale. You're going to get old and slow, and everybody that comes in thinks that they're faster and stronger than you, right? When you go to sell the business, every business is built to be sold. And when you go to sell that business, you want to have a binder that everything you need is right here: customer base, employee list, and the process. And here it is, and it's all taken care of. Here's the process. Literally
every little thing, like
everything.
Paychecks, paying sales tax, paying income tax, like everything had a step-by-step deal. Right. So this one is actually for a question for the processes.
Okay.
So if you don't have any of your processes documented, where and how do you start? It seems so overwhelming. And don't just say, just do it.
Well, that's where I would start, by saying, just do it. So I wish I would have taken a picture. I had a company that texted me 2 days ago, and they said, can you elaborate on this? If we don't have a shop person in this mechanical role, what are things that I'm missing? Alarm goes off. What do I do? Do this. This is where I would tell you to start. Start by asking yourself every day, what are the things that you ask yourself every day, right? Every day, what do you do? Like every minute, there's two things. What do you do every day? Like every day, do you get up and then do you open the door, or do you that's a process. Like someone has to do it. If you're not there and you handed a binder to someone to take over your role, that's a process. That's called day in the life of whoever it is. But then when you get to the process, every time a question comes to you, and, as a business owner, you get the call of, Johnny has a flat on the truck. That's a problem, right? What do you do? Where does Johnny take the truck? Do you call a tow truck? What's the number? What's the name? Who do you ask for? Is there a discount? What tire place do you go to? Somebody got an accident. What accident place do you go to? What hospital do you go to? Someone has a broken bottle of this that got sent in the mail. What do you do? What's the phone number? What's the return address? Every single time you get something that comes at you that's a problem that you just fix, you have to put that on paper to make the person that took your job know how to do that one thing. And then what you're going to find is you got a bunch of holes, and maybe you don't have answers for those things. But most business owners on here are going to have the same thing happens all the time, right? This always happens. That always happens. Johnny knows to do it, but what if Johnny is not there? So it starts with just simply putting it to paper, getting a pen and a paper, writing down your day. The second one is if you have a large business, what Michelle will tell you is I would give everybody a list of tell me what you did today. I want to know what you did between 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11. I want by hour breakdown of your day, because that's what drove Michelle's job. If she was a customer service rep, I needed to know what she did. The first thing she did every morning. What did you do every morning at 8 o'clock, Michelle? What's the first thing you did?
Check my emails.
Check your emails. First thing she did that come over everything else? Yes. And why?
Because I had to take, if there was any issues, because my guys were out in the field, and I had to, if there was anything that came in that I needed to get to them quickly for the day, I had to get it to them.
So that was a pressure point so if anyone came in and worked for Michelle, they had to know that emails had to be done first. And then second is this, and third is this. And so if you ask your employees to break down your processes, you'll be amazed. That gives you your starting point. Okay. So if you will ask your employees, or you start with yourself, if it's more than yourself and you have a coworker or employees, start with them and ask them to write down what they do in a day. You might even be amazed at how much you're paying people to not do anything. That might be an eye-opener. Okay. Some of you right now that are shaking your head, y'all know what I'm talking about.
I have heard him have that talk before. I'm not
when
saying
I say
it was
to somebody,
with me.
Yeah, if I say, please write down everything you do every hour, and you come back at the end of the day and you struggle to get through that day, then that's a problem. So then we're going to do it again tomorrow. And if you struggle tomorrow, then the third day I'm with you. So let's figure out what you're going to do. And then you're going to figure out processes quickly. But start very small. Like the most subtle thing around it, like I'm just going to use my business, service business, is I wanted this is how detailed we would do. We had 20 trucks that would go out. Those 20 trucks went out. The first one left the office at 4:45. The next one left at 5 o'clock. The next one left at 5:15. The next one left at 5:30. I staggered them in 15-minute increments for the reason of making it easy. One person checked every single thing. So everything is calculated. So what does that mean? Here's the process. On Monday, first departure is 4:45, last is 7. People have to be there. Schedules have to line up with it. When they go out, the days have to line up with who's coming back in. Where are they going? Everything has to be well-oiled to get through that day. That's how you're efficient in business, okay? So that's where you start with your processes, is simply start by writing it down with what you do and what your employees do. You have another one?
Yeah, it was anything down to like even the shop guy. This is, you sharpen blades like this. It was pretty detailed, but it was also, sorry, I'm also reading a question in the same time. It was also, you dumb it down where if someone comes in, if random comes in, they can follow that and know what to do.
Yep.
Okay. This one's kind of a long one, and it's got a lot of verbiage in it that I gotta change a little bit.
I'll just throw it out there. We'll understand it.
No, I need to. Okay, this is a direct sales person. Someone under them in direct sales is part of some other network, and now they're considering joining. Is it unethical or wrong for me to now join that chapter after they introduced the one that they're in?
I don't even know what the hell you're saying right now.
I know. Hold on.
Is join whatever join the forces of whatever you want to be.
It's a weird, uncomfortable feeling. Hold on. Business Network International. Do you know what that is?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
This is what I would tell you.
So if you have direct sales, and what's your opinion on direct sales joining other things?
I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to go with direct sale. You're working in direct sales.
I sell Tupperware. Now I'm going to sell Tupperware and
it doesn't matter. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. If you're involved in something, let's relate this to traditional business. If I sell something in traditional business and tomorrow I see an opportunity to sell this, go wherever you think is going to most profit you in business. It's that easy. So if you feel that the industry or the calling or what makes you happy is to go do something, I would tell you go do it and be the best at it you can be. What I think will happen a lot of us though is I'll go back to, you have the right people, the right processes, and the right product, right? So most of us will find that we have a great product or we have a great process, but there's something within us, specifically in direct sales, that makes us struggle. So I encourage everybody, listen, I got 4 businesses. I'll sell you anything from ping pong tables to a boat dock to mow your grass tomorrow. I'll sell you anything you want, but I'm going to be good at all of them. The question is, are you passionate about all the things you're going to talk about, or are you just jumping from this to this to this? I mean, the first thing I do when I look at people's resumes and they went from this job to this job to this job to this job is they have no dedication, because they're aimless. They're just flighting through life, right? But you can do 4 businesses and be the president of all of them right now and be passionate about all of them if you're really that passionate about all of them. So I guess my words of advice would be is go where you're passionate about. Like it doesn't even matter if it's a direct sales or business, traditional business. It's like being a flight attendant for American Airlines or Delta. Which one's going to treat you better? Go knock yourself out, but go where you're passionate about. So that's how I would answer that question.
Okay. I have another question. You talked to Kim, you and Kim did an interview thing earlier this week. And one thing y'all talked about was, firing somebody. And I've seen you fight. You're always very admirable when you fire people and when you know how to fire and you do it quickly. So what is how do you know? Like, not everyone he hires is great, guys. Only one.
I think that, the first thing is when Michelle's been fired 4 times by herself.
Today.
Yeah, today. You're getting fired today. It's your birthday. Is here's what I would tell you about personnel. I believe when you hire a person on, it's your job 100% to give everything you can to that person that you hired to be an employee for you. And when you give everything you can to that person, then it's up to them to fail. And I'm going to give them so many tools. Like what would you want if you were an employee, right? Like how many times have y'all been hired when you were younger and you get hired and you're like, they didn't even tell me like where the mop was and they want me to mop the floor. Like, this place is stupid. Well, it's the direction of us as owners, right? Or business owners or management. You have to first hire good, whatever your gut is. If you hire bad, typically you know before you hire them most of the time. So in the interview, when you knew that they were bad, you shouldn't have hired them. Don't just fill spots to fill spots. That's number 1. Number 2 is when they come in, do you then teach them and give them everything you can and give them all the tools they need to let them fail? Because I wanted people to get as fast as they could to where they were efficient. And then my goal from that point on was to go back to what we talked about earlier, being very clear direction. I want to give them as much time as I can. I want them to know every single thing I can, because then what Michelle will tell you is I believed it was my job to always educate the employees so much that they fired themselves. I never fired people. I let my employees would sit down with me and they already knew it was about to go down. They would just hand me their keys because they already knew going into it. It wasn't a surprise. It's having those conversations. And so many of us are guilty of, I have a bad employee and you don't tell them. You're like just pissed off all the time about it. Grab them, sit them down. Like in my business world, if someone pissed me off today or something was not done right now, we're talking right now. Like everything else in the world can stop right now. Like we can walk outside. We're going to talk about this right now. No big deal, man. We're friends and we're cool. We're all human, but we're going to talk about the problem right now, and you're going to direct it. You're going to fix it. And then you're going to either make it or you're not. Okay. And so you don't let employees, like, it's not like a 12-month trial and then you like evaluate everything in 12 months. Employees are day by day trial, just like you are as an owner. You have to come in and be a damn good owner every day. Like the employees are owed that as well, right? Like you can't be good some days and bad some days. That's not what you want from your employees. So you need to be good every day as an owner, and they need to be good every day as an employee. And you need to talk about it every single day. It's a day by day thing, which brings up the point is you got to be present. Like if you're not present as an owner or a business owner or a leader, it's hard to be influential if you're not there. So you got to be there, and you got to spend the time to talk to them and make sure that they know. I'm telling you, this is a great line. If you remember it, is always remember, don't ever fire employees. Let employees fire themselves. And if you keep asking yourself what that means is, well, that means that you're not telling them. If you're going to fire them about something that they don't know, that means you never told them. So always be really good at telling them in the good times, right? Like if you do this, I tell people on the first day that they started with my company, you cheat, steal, or lie from me, there's no place for you here. I just tell you right now, you don't have to come back on day 2 if you cheat, steal, or lie from me. So there's not even a conversation that we're going to have that. We're not even going to have that conversation after you cheat, steal, or lie. We're not even going to have the conversation because I told you on day 1, I'm not going to have it, right? So you got to be that direct and that honest with people in the beginning. So, and just get rid of people. Like it sucks firing people. I mean, it sucks firing people, but you got to do it. Is it worth your business to keep terrible people in your business? And it has to do with friends. Direct salespeople has to do with friends. It has to do with coworkers. It has to be with people around you. Like people aren't always awesome. Like you just have to deal with that and ask yourself, are you going to be better than whatever they're putting out, and just push it to the side, or tell them, hey, can you do me a favor and not talk like that? Because you're killing my mojo. I'll tell a friend in a heartbeat, listen, man, you're killing my stuff. I can't talk to you for 2 weeks. So you got anything else, Michelle?
I do. I got a question on the process is again, how we laid it all out. Like, so we had binders and each person had their own what they did every day.
So they want to know specifically how to lay out a process?
Yeah. Well, yeah. How did it look? Like, the front desk had one, the shop foreman had one,
Yeah, everybody should have a process. I would tell you in today's world, you probably shouldn't be doing them in binders. I mean, it's probably, we're in 2020 almost, but if around your systems, it can start with a binder, and it should start on a piece of paper. But I think in today's world, it's going to start in an iPhone or an iPad or something. And then there's companies out there. You can Google process software. There's all kinds of process stuff, but you really want to, I would just say, what is your organizational chart? And that's where the processes start. So those are people. So you have organizational chart, you have secretary or front attendant, manager, whatever it might, custodian, whatever it might be. They have a position and they have to have a job duty, right? What's in the job duty? And then in that job duty then becomes operations. And in the operational side then becomes your processes around your operations. And then you have sales processes. So for me, sales processes were huge. Like we spent probably the most time around a sales process. For me, and I'll tell you how specific this was for me, I believe that from the time the phone rang or the email came in, we had 1 hour to respond or call. The first point of contact was 1 hour. So this was all spelled out. Email comes in, next step, 1 hour max. Phone call returned, email returned, left message, documented in system. Second contact goes out within 24 hours of the first contact. Third contact goes out within 48 hours. Fourth contact goes out within 36 hours. And then we close the lead. I mean, everything down to that. And we would spend days. I mean, I remember spending days and days talking about, well, it's too much to call at 24 and 12. No, it's not. The right data shows that if you contact somebody within the first hour, you're more likely to close them. So I'm going to call them 67 times in the first hour. So that's the process that you have to have on paper, is to understand first call goes in it here, because when the new salesperson that you hire comes in, what do they want to know? How do I call? Where do I document it? What process, where do I enter the system? Whatever you write down, if you have I remember in the old days, we used to have like a customer form. So when the phone rang, you grab the customer form and you would handwrite it out. That was called a customer form. Then that customer form went in the trash, and then it went straight into our CRM system. And that CRM system then created a to-do, and the to-do had to have, so you just have to walk your way through that. That's on the sales side. Then think about the product side. So I'm using Steve here, for example, on the Granite side. When you have an operational install day, what happens on install day? Does the truck get loaded? Is there a checklist around what never gets left? Does the saw can you go install Granite without a saw? Like this checklist about the saw and the tools to put that in is probably pretty freaking important, right? A level might be an important thing. So the new guy that comes on, does he leave the shop without the level? That's a checklist. That's part of your process. Travis doing landscaping, you can't leave without a shovel. Might need a shovel and a wheelbarrow. So those are processes that sound so simple to us, but they're not simple to the new guy. And so the new guy that looks at your business, and here's another, just for what it is, the person looking at buying your business, all that stuff looks pretty. It shows the dedication of how much work you've done to make your thing look pretty. When you don't have that, a buyer believes that I'm buying something that's all in that guy's head. You have to have things that's comfort for a buyer, and it's comfort for a new employee, and it's comfort for yourself to go to sleep. If something happens to you, your spouse can still run the business because there's a booklet on it. Okay. So that's why that's so important. All the things that are in your head, just writing them down, everything you know, write them down and get them on paper. Okay. So anything else, Michelle?
That's all I got. No one sent anything in.
That's good. So I want to back up. We'll wrap this up. I'm tired tonight. Been chasing fires all day. And I want to just bring back and just really hit home. Just ask yourself, do you have the right story with the right product, with the right strategies, with the right data, right? Like whatever you're doing, do you have those right things? Then do you have your people, your processes, and your products? If you'll focus on those three things, and I'm telling you, probably the thing that's the easiest is process, the hardest is people. And you got to put a ton of time and energy into your people. So that's it. That's all I got. I hope everybody got something out of it, and have a great night. And I hope everybody has an awesome Christmas. And thanks for spending your time on here. Get after it. Everybody have a great night. Thanks, guys.